World Breastfeeding Week 2023 is slated for the first week of August. The theme for the year 2023 is enabling breastfeeding, making a difference for working parents. This year's theme is important because workplace challenges remain the most common reason for women to never breastfeed or to stop breastfeeding earlier than recommended. So, how can workplaces better support breastfeeding mothers? With me in studio is Wangeshi Kihara. She's a certified lactation specialist and child nutritionist. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lillian.
How can workplaces better support breastfeeding mothers?
I think one of the most important things that workplaces can do and employers can do is to embrace the things that the government has put in place, and also better yet embracing what WHO has put in place in regards to supporting workplace parents and in regards to supporting moms. So simple things like creating a space for moms to pump, creating time allocations where mom can actually pump, creating HR policies where a mom does not have to feel bad or is not abused or made to feel bad because she needs time to go and pump, creating flexible working hours for new moms within the first 6 months after giving birth, creating spaces where maybe even an employer can buy a pump that can be used by many people. Therefore, the mom doesn't always have to bring a pump. Putting a fridge, creating a special place where mom can actually go and feel relaxed to be able to pump and give the mother milk.
Because common perception, and it's easy to overlook this, is that once the 3-month maternity leave is over, then the woman or the breastfeeding mother is back at work and the work pressures take over. So in terms of ideally how a mother or how long a mother should breastfeed a child, what is recommended?
The current WHO recommendation is for a mom to breastfeed exclusively for 6 months and then continue to breastfeed for at least 2 years. This is what has been shown by research to be the best outcome for the baby in terms of the baby's health, and also to give the baby better outcomes for their tummy issues, chest issues. And also breastfeeding has so many benefits for moms. It reduces incidences of cancers, it makes the mother feel better, reduces postpartum depression and things like that.
But when we say breastfeeding and we're going to get into expressing milk, when we talk about breastfeeding and the mother-to-baby contact, we're now talking about expressing milk, meaning that this child will be given the milk via the bottle. Is there anything that's compromised because of that approach?
Well, yes and no. So if the mother does know how to offer the milk to the baby with a bottle, with a cup, with a syringe, and any other method that they choose to use, then no, there'll be no compromising of the situation of the diet. But if a mother, for example, ends up giving a bottle, gives too much of the bottle, gives a bottle that the teat is too big, and most times the pediatrician is the one who tells the mom, your baby is now 3 months old, go to the next size, then this milk from the bottle comes out too fast. And that's part of the reason why there's a lot of debate on whether bottles are safe or not, because a bottle is always so much easier for a baby to use than the breast. So once the teat is too big and the milk is coming out too fast, and once mom goes back to work, the milk will generally reduce a bit depending on what mom does and what support she has. So once this happens, then baby is likely to refuse to breastfeed because of flow confusion, because the bottle will always have more milk than the breast. But if the mom really sticks to a slow flow bottle or uses a cup or a spoon, then no, you cannot compromise the diet.
Right, and this year's theme, Wangeshi, we're talking about workplace support. So talking about the lactation rooms and what the nursing rooms and what they should look like. What ideally should this environment look like?
Ideally. Yeah. My dream lactation room. Yeah. Well, that would be a room that is spacious, a room that the colors are very light, so either something painted in white or very soft pastels, where the person, when they come in, even if the room is small, it doesn't feel cluttered, with a couch, a nice comfortable couch, a small fridge, a microwave, preferably with a sterilizer and a sink, so that the mother can be able to wash their hands and also wash the pump parts.
Yeah. But we're talking about an ideal situation, which is probably, upmarket.
Yeah.
What if the mother doesn't have access to a sink, doesn't have access to a fridge, water, or even time in terms of now the hygiene that is involved in terms of washing the parts of the breast pump?
Okay, so if the mother does not have basically a lactation room to be able to go and pump, you can use a boardroom. Most offices will have a space somewhere that you can actually use. And I always encourage moms, before you go back to work or before you go for maternity leave, go and speak to your HR person. If the company is small and there's no HR person, you can always speak to your boss and tell them, hey, I'm going on leave, but when I come back, these are the things that I would need. And most bosses should be able to tell you, okay, fine, when I go out for lunch, you can use my office to pump. Or every 4 hours, I'll step out for 20 minutes and you can pump. So that's one thing. There's no office that doesn't have a sink. Majority of offices will also have a fridge. If your office does not have a fridge, you can buy a bag like this one, a bigger one.
Let me hold our baby.
Yeah. So this is an insulated bag. From the inside, you'll see that it's different from just a normal bag. So with this, you buy some ice blocks from most supermarkets should have the ice blocks. Then you put them inside the bag to maintain the temperature of the bag throughout the day. So then you'd pump, put the milk into the bag and put your pump pads into the bag. If the coldness is maintained, then you can use the pump maybe the second time if you're not able to wash. But if you're able to wash, you can wash and just use the microwave to sterilize. Using a microwave sterilizer, then put it again in here. So this, a bag like this would really help.
Yeah, and the question of how long the milk stays safe or stays fresh is also of importance because this is milk that you're, first of all, transporting from the work environment back home.
So milk stays stable without a fridge for about 4 hours. Once you put it in here, that elongates the time a bit to maybe about 6 or 8 hours. Then you'd have to put it in the fridge. Then in the fridge, it will stay for about 3 days because the environment was not very, it was not optimum. So it would be 3 days. If the conditions were optimum, then we'd be saying about 4 days in the fridge. But because the conditions were not optimum, we'd do 3 days or 2 days in the fridge. Then in the freezer for 6 months, and that's the fridge freezer. Then in a chest freezer for a year.
Okay, so 6 months shelf life if it's in the freezer.
The freezer with a fridge at the bottom.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. And hygiene, Wangeshi, you know, the cleaning of the, especially we're looking at the breast pump. So hygiene in terms of how to handle this breast pump, how to handle your breast as well, how to handle your hands, and ideally, you know, the storage as well. Questions around whether or not it's safe to store your milk together with that of other people.
Okay. So first with hygiene, I think after COVID, all of us know how to wash our hands. We know that you don't just wash like this and leave. You really need to wash your hands, ensure that your fingernails are really cleaned. Then your pump pads, depending on the conditions of your water, but it's always really safe based on the world that we are in, or this part of the world, to sterilize. So you can use an electric sterilizer, or you can use a microwave sterilizer, or you can boil if you don't have any of this. You can boil or use like the sterilizing tablets. Then once you do that, your parts are sterile and your hands are clean, then with that, your milk should be able to stay. Is it safe to store your milk with other people's things? Yes, generally, because the things that you have used are safe to use. So now what I would do, for example, if you're using the fridge that's in the office, is to buy like a container and label it Wangeshi's milk. And then all my milk would go in there, and then you put it at the back of the fridge. And majority of people would respect your items and not have to touch it and move it around.
And some work requires travel. So how to pump and store milk if your work requires travel?
Again, this device, it's a lifesaver. So same thing, you'd buy the ice blocks, put it, and then if you're in the car, you pump in the car. So these days, there are wearable pumps. There are also pumps that have like the car charger thingy that you can use. And then when you get to wherever destination that you get to, then you ask them for a fridge. You put the milk in a fridge. Same thing, get a container, label it, and tell them this is breast milk. And majority of hotels and Airbnbs should be able to do this for you. Then, depending on how long you're staying. So if you're staying 3 or 4 days, I would not freeze it. I would refrigerate it and travel back with it refrigerated and then freeze it at home. If you're staying more than the 4 days, then you'd have to freeze it and come back with it. The reason why I would not freeze it is because once your milk thaws, yani ikitokana, you have to use it within 24 hours. But with refrigerated milk, as long as it's still cold, you can come back and put it in the fridge. So it's safer for you.
And, you know, we're talking about expressing milk like it's a walk in the park, but we know that there are mothers who really struggle with expressing milk. There are mothers who have complained that as long as their child is on the breast, yes, then the breast flow is there. But the minute they put the pump on, it just doesn't work. They're unable to express milk. So in those cases, we're talking about workplace support. This mother is away from her child. How does that work?
So one of the things that I talked about earlier is a multi-user pump. And for big companies, it's a worthy investment. So the first cost really looks expensive because it goes for about $2,000, $3,000 for that kind of pump. But if you're a big employer with 3,000, 4,000 employees, every mother that comes through your place can actually use it.
So we can share a pump?
We can share, yeah. It's a multi-user pump, therefore the milk doesn't flow back. There's no risk at all. You buy your parts, I buy my parts, then I just plug into the pump. So such a thing would be such a good thing for big employers. And because I feel relaxed, then my output will really be good. But for everyone else, what I really want people to remember is if I have a Rolex, yeah, from an original Rolex, and somebody else has a fake Rolex that's written something, those two things are different. In terms of performance, in terms of look and feel, it's just that maybe this other one has really tried to do a good job in imitating the Rolex.
Right.
That's the same thing with the best breast pump. The baby is the original breast pump.
Right.
It's the original removal of milk. Even the best, the $3,000 one, is still a Chinese, it's a China make. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, so it will never do as good a job as a baby would be able to do. And therefore, even if you pump and you get a little milk, it's still okay. Sometimes it's a pump, but the average woman pumps 30 to 90 ml of milk per session, which is very okay. But if you feel that your pump is not doing a good job, you can always get a consultation with a lactation consultant, and they'll be able to walk you through the different pumps and what they can be able to do for you.
Many thanks. Wangeshi Kihara is a certified lactation specialist and child nutritionist. And the world will be observing and celebrating World Breastfeeding Week 2023 on the first week of August. We look forward to engaging lactation experts on more around why you should breastfeed your child exclusively for 6 months. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.